In this section, we will start working with blueprints. It's a visual programming system that uses a node-based interface to create gameplay elements and logic. This system is very versatile and I hardly can imagine what can't be done using it. There's a lot to learn here, but we do it step by step, starting with the most simple concepts first and then building upon them to create a playable game. Please navigate to this folder and open the minimal default map. This level will be a starting point of our very own universe where we dictate rules and events. If you think about it, every game is a structured form of play with defined rules and goals, often involving competition or cooperation between players. To be a game, it needs clear objectives, a set of rules governing interactions, player agency or decision-making, and a means of assessing progress or success. Additionally, games typically include elements such as challenge, skill, chance, and enjoyment to engage players and provide a fulfilling experience. First things first, this game already has a set of rules by default. For instance, we already have rules of physics implemented. If you direct your character to space where there is no surface for it to stand on, it will fall. It happens since one of the fundamental laws of physics gets involved, the gravity. Since this is our universe, we can dictate laws of physics and even remove them altogether. I want you to understand that you are sort of a god in this universe you create for your characters. The sooner you'll understand this concept, the sooner you'll open your mind to a notion that everything is permitted. Let's forget about physics for a moment. I mentioned that the game needs to have certain challenges for it to be interesting for the players. Let's create the first challenge. Holding the Alt button on my keyboard, I will create 2 additional floors in this level. One floor needs to be a bit further like this. Our first objective will be to reach this separated floor tile. Let's try it out. As you can see, our character lacks the capacity to jump this far, so we need to come up with a solution. There can be various solutions to this challenge. Let's try to solve it by teaching our character how to sprint. Find your third-person character blueprint in your content browser and double-click to open it. Welcome to the Blueprint Editor graph. Please don't be overwhelmed with everything you see here. I know it can be a bit intimidating for the beginner, but trust me, by the end of this section, most of the stuff here will become intuitive for you. So, our objective is to teach our third-person character to sprint. What do you think we need to achieve this goal? Well, first of all, we need a button that would be responsible to make our character move faster. In many games, Shift is the dedicated button for sprinting. Let's go to the project settings and introduce this new Shift button. Click on Edit in the menu bar. Then click on Project Settings. Scroll down until you find Input. Click on it. Now click on this little plus sign to the right of Action Mappings. Expand the action mappings by clicking on this tiny arrow. Okay, now we can name our action. Let's call it a sprint key. Now click on this icon that represents a keyboard. When this icon of a keyboard turns yellow, you can press the Shift key on your real keyboard and the Unreal Engine will register the key. Alternately, you can expand this menu and look for Shift key manually. Do it the way you prefer. Okay, this is everything we had to do in the project settings. Now we can return back to our third-person blueprint. Now let's zoom in somewhere in the empty space and start building our logic. Right-click on the empty region of the graph to show all actions available for this blueprint. Let's search for the sprint key we just created. Click on it. Okay, as you can see, there are 2 execution pins here. The pressed one fires when you press the Shift key on your keyboard, while released fires only after you release the key. For our purposes, we want our character to sprint when the Shift key is pressed and return to normal run speed when it is released. In this blueprint, this character movement component is responsible for everything that is related to movement of the character. Let's click on it to observe the details of character movement. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in here. We'll be using many settings from here in the future, but for now we are only interested in the max walk speed property. If we simply change this max walk speed value here, in the details panel it will certainly be changed, but we need it to change only when we press the Shift button. Now, how do we achieve that? It's actually done in a few simple steps. First, we need to drag out the character movement component. Now drag out the wire from this tiny blue output pin and release it somewhere nearby. Search for Set Max Walk Speed and click on it. The default setting for max walk speed was 500 units. Let's make it 650 to make our character run noticeably faster. Okay, since we don't want our character to sprint all the time, we should also set the max walk speed for normal running mode. I will use keyboard shortcut to duplicate this node. Then I will set the max walk speed to 500 units. Finally, I will connect everything and it's ready. Let's analyze. So this is the input action for sprinting that we created in our project settings. When Shift key is pressed, this chunk of code will fire. Basically, we tell the engine to set the max walk speed of the character movement component to 650 units. This part of the code tells the engine to set max walk speed back to 500 units. I set it to 500 units because that's the default speed for our character. Now we need to compile this blueprint by clicking on this button here. Also, don't forget to save your blueprint by clicking on this Save button or using the keyboard shortcut. Okay, I think it's the right time to test our sprint key. Let's return to the Level Editor tab and click on Play. I wonder if we can make it to the separated floor tile. We did it. There you go. After a couple of simple tweaks, we introduced sprinting and even managed to overcome a small challenge we set up for ourselves. I congratulate you with this first achievement. Though we still have a very long way to go, I'm sure you'll soon become a good game developer if we continue learning how to use the engine in small but concrete steps. This is it for this lecture. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.